being like just a slave to this substance and needing it all the time. And when I wouldn't have it, I was irritable and I was a wreck. And so after listening to that song, stupid as it sounds, I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not gonna do this anymore. Is it sucks when I die? Probably gonna suck, you know? I would have probably liked another day, no matter what it is. I think of the time with my wife. I think of the time with my dog, future dogs. I think of the time with my mom. I think of the time with my brothers. And like, you could either not be born, so you don't have to die, or I can give you all these memories, but it's going to end one day. And I would take the memories a million times over.
And the very first dream that he was in, I screamed in the dream because when he was running towards me, I knew he wasn't there.
This is, you listening to Travis.
A week ago, I started my personal podcast and I had a great time. And, y'all came out and showed out. And I was super happy with all the comments and everything. And listen, I'm super happy to be here with another friend. I figured if I did it once, I can do it again. I know a lot of interesting people. And today I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine that I've known for over a decade, which is kind of crazy to think about. We're going to talk about how we got to meet each other and things we think about and how similar we think about certain things and maybe not everything. And my friend Ryan Loco is here. Ryan, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I feel very inferior at the moment.
How so? Stop that.
Well, I realized that, like, look at your beautiful background, and I look like I'm being currently detained at the Florida penitentiary.
But your pictures always look better than mine, so there you go.
Yeah, but like maybe this will be so my wife's a designer, and so she has been wanting to design my office because I have moved offices in my own house multiple times.
Huh.
And so there's this whole plan, and as you can see,
it's never quite gone anywhere.
Which is fine. Like I just sit here to edit photos, and that's it. But you can see the photos behind that should be hung up, and they're just sitting there.
And they're just not.
So maybe this will be the kick in the butt. When
I love it.
You were on a podcast and people saw you, and it looked like
what the hell's going on over there?
Yeah.
Well, let me introduce you first of all. So for those who don't know, first of all, Ryan and I have known each other for a couple of years. Back when I used to have an MMA podcast, is when we very first met. We'll talk about that story a little bit later. But just give us a quick 30-second who you are and what you do, so that people can kind of understand who you are.
My name's Ryan. I am a photographer. I'll photograph anything. I call myself a photo mercenary. So if you pay me, I will take photos of it. Most of it right now is involved in pro wrestling. Still do some MMA, other sports, as well as interiors, because my wife is a designer. So I'll do projects like that. That's about it. Pretty old, pretty boring. And
I don't know. I love when people say that, because if you go to ryanloco.com and you see all the photos you've taken of the amazing people, like people that people, when I say I mean like people watching this go, oh wait, that's Snoop Dogg, I know who that is. Oh, that's John Moxley. All these people that you're surrounded by constantly. I think it's very easy for us as creators of anything to go, oh yeah, I just kind of do this thing, and from people on the outside looking in going, holy crap, you do that? Like you're all the time on a plane, which we're definitely going to talk about that in a little bit. We're going to talk about planes a little bit, but you're always away. As a matter of fact, you leave again today. Like you just got back, a day or so ago, and then you're getting back on another plane today, right?
I got back yesterday, landed at 3:51, did not get off the plane until 5:41. So one of the perks of living in South Florida is that we will have random thunderstorms and lightning. And because of that, I had to sit there 5 feet away from the gate. And then, I get on a plane tonight in a few hours. We're actually going to go and adopt a dog. So we got to fly.
We're talking dogs. We're talking dogs in this episode
today. So we got to fly up to Arkansas, and then we will be driving back. So it's very, very exciting to have a new addition to our family.
You are all over the place all the time. How often are you actually home?
That's a great question. My wife asked the same question. I fly minimum once a week. So I'm gone a few days of the week. And then things will random. The problem is obviously I will try to fit in other things. And so because of that, obviously I have to leave. And so there's some times where I'm home. Like some people I get made fun of because they're like, you're flying home and you're going to turn around the next morning and leave. And it's like, well, I really like my bed. And I actually like hanging out with my wife, and I want to see her, even if it's for 8 hours, even if it's just to literally come in, make a quick something bite to eat, fall asleep, and then get an Uber at 5 a.m. to go back to the airport.
Oof. Actually,
Yeah.
let's. I don't really have like a specific timeline I want to go over, but as
Yeah.
you talked about your wife a couple times, I do want to talk a little bit about her. First of all, I've never met her or seen her before, but because you fly around so often, you're always, and this is not something that's new for you. You've always been a traveler. I don't understand, like, how did you even meet her? Like, how did you ever
Yeah.
meet someone, have a relationship that could go all the way into marriage? Like, how does that work?
So she was a big kickboxing fan. You know, she trained herself.
Mhm.
And so she was following Tyrone Spong, a friend of mine,
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
best kickboxers of all time.
Hmm.
And so he would post photos and tag me in them. And then she was just thinking, I'm going to follow this guy because he'll post other photos, not only of Tyrone, but other acts, you know, just to see more kickboxing and fight photos.
Mm.
And then from there, we just started talking.
Slid into the
And
DMs, huh?
yeah. And
The
then,
tale as old as time.
exactly. So I figure it's pretty much everyone's future story. I mean, most people, I think from now on, are going to have those sort of stories, right?
You
Like
would
this
think.
internet's the new like bar or laundromat, I would
It's
assume.
the new bar. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we started talking and we connected really well and vibed really well. Never thought anything of it. I never thought I would get married or anything like that. I never thought anyone could put up with me. And amazingly, you know, I found my person and we just connected and have clicked and it's just been absolutely perfect. And people probably want to throw up when they hang out with us, but
I think that's great.
it's been amazing. And yeah, man, I could not be happier.
How long
ever.
have you guys been together?
Wow, thanks. Let's see.
Let's make sure she watches this so she
Holly,
knows.
turn this part off. No, we have been together 10 years.
Wow. So
Yeah.
was there a moment when you were like, oh crap, I'm actually fully in on this? Like, do you remember when that was? From it's kind of casual, it's fun, to like, oh crap, this is a thing.
It was probably like after the first time we hung out.
Oh geez.
Yeah.
That's very fast, huh?
Yeah, it was just annoying. Like she was living in Vegas at the time and I was living in Florida for the first time. And I just assumed, I mean, I was just like, perfect. Like I come to
Mhm.
Vegas all the time for fights. So
That's right.
there's just a chick in Vegas.
Yeah,
You know,
right. There you go.
It is perfect. And then as soon as I like flew back home, I was like, man,
This is that thing, isn't
this is
it?
a wrap. And but it all worked out. I like truly, my life is beautiful. I have a life that I definitely do not deserve, and I promise that I appreciate every moment of it because, yeah, I wake up every day just tripping out because this is definitely not the life I had planned, and definitely not the life I didn't even think I'd be alive. So, to be honest with you, so
Yeah, I was gonna say, first of all, that's one of the things I appreciate about you is like your positivity about a lot of things and your embracing of like love and all of that. That's one of the things that we connect on. Let's rewind a little bit. So first of all, why Ryan Loco? You're the least crazy person I know.
yeah. I mean, I used to be out there, but I got the nickname from Jason Mayhem Miller.
Oh,
MMA
Jason, yeah.
fighter. He had his own TV show on MTV called Bully Beatdown.
Mm-hmm.
And we had been hanging out for a while. And he mentioned that he was like, oh, your name's Ryan. I already have a friend named Ryan. And he's like, he's a white dude. We call him Crazy Ryan. He's like, but you're Mexican. So you're just going to be Ryan Loco. Make it easier. And I was like, sure, man. Didn't even think anything of it. And now
Yeah.
it's just become my name. Everyone
Yeah.
assumes it's my last name.
Sure.
I've had people write me before I had like my business. I had people write like checks to me, and I was like, I can't cash this. Like, there was one time that I got paid, and I had no money, like none. And like, the guy that I did some work for was like, I have a check for you. I'm in Huntington, and I was living in San Diego. I can just mail it. And I was like, no, I'll drive up. So I drove up there with whatever money I had left to pay for gas, and got the check. Didn't look at it. And then drove all the way home. Get back, open it up, and it says Ryan Loco. And I'm like,
Bruh.
so I had to like scramble. I don't know, this is against the law. I apologize. It's not, it was mine. It was me. But I had to scramble to try to find the exact pen or a very similar pen. And like
Dope.
just in the corner, like this much, put my last name and put quotations on Loco, just like, because otherwise I wouldn't have
Yeah.
eaten that month. It
Oh
wasn't
my
happening.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of curious, like how you even make money. But before we get into that, let's real quick.
My wife wonders how I make money. So it's fine.
It's like, wait a minute, how are you making money again?
Yeah.
I do want to talk about that because I think you have a fascinating story. But before that, let's rewind about how we met and why, kind of like our connection. So I started a MMA podcast with an old website called MMA Scraps. That got going for a while, and then I actually ended up connecting with MMA Weekly. At some point during that time, I think we followed each other on Twitter. And then the first, and I'm not sure if it's the only time, but the first time we ever met was in Vancouver for the UFC with Chuck Liddell and Rich Franklin. I don't remember what number that was.
113, maybe?
Is that early? I mean, it might have been. I mean, I haven't been. I've only been to Vancouver for an event once, so I know it was that. Did you ever come to any? Did you go to any of these Seattle events? Or did you go to Strikeforce in Portland right before they closed?
No, I went to UFC in Portland.
Okay, I didn't go to UFC in Portland. I went to Strikeforce.
Randy fought Brandon Vera.
Yeah. No, so I'm the reason I ask this is because I'm like, how many times have we actually met in person? It may have only been once or twice. For sure, once, but
it wasn't an expo too?
I didn't go to any expos.
None
I
of
went to
them.
fights.
All right.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I went to like smaller events. So this is what's so funny about kind of our friendship here is, and I call you a friend, even though like we don't have the tip, like we don't talk very often at all. Again, we've only met in person one time. But I'll tell you why I think so highly of you and why I like you so much is that first trip to Vancouver, I think was the first UFC I covered in person. And I had been talking to a lot of these journalists and stuff on Twitter and stuff a lot. So you have this parasocial thing that happens with like content creators too. Like people who watch my content think they know me without meeting me.
Sure.
So like I thought that about certain people, and I got there. Hey, I'm Travis. Nice to meet you. And people were like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. But you were like the one person who was like, hey man, what's going on? And then I remember very specifically when we were at the post-fight press conference. I think you were sitting behind me or in front of me, and you were like talking to me, and like all the other people that I thought were like friendly with me weren't really saying anything to me at all. And I just remember that. I never forgot that. And throughout all these years, I've always kept you on my Twitter follow and everything, and then we'll periodically have something in common, which we'll talk about planes and dogs and stuff. I think are our biggest things that are connected. But I also love like your outlook on life, and I've never forgotten that moment. I feel like it's important in life that sometimes just doing one thing that is not that big of a deal. Like you just talking to me at a press conference, not that big of a deal, impacted me very, very deeply in a way that I'm like, I like this dude. This is my guy. Yeah.
I try to, when I was dealing more with MMA athletes and things like that, I tried to explain to them, obviously, like they're famous and well known and like people are coming up to them. And I would always explain to them, like, yeah, I know you're tired. You want to go home, you want to go to bed. I get it. But like for you, that is nothing, 10 seconds. But for someone else, that's their entire memory of you. So it can easily go from, you're my favorite fighter, he was such a dick, to favorite fighter, they were so great, and that's the memory they will have for the rest of their life. And even if someone's like, I hate so-and-so, well, I met him and he was super nice to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then like sometimes too, we'd go out and like, I remember doing this with Rampage where we would have to pull him away because he had to go. But the thing was, we were the bad guys. And then they could be like, Rampage wanted to stay and sign, but his jerk friends or his jerk security, whoever,
and that's okay,
made him leave,
Mm-hmm.
And so I would do that a lot for people. Like, listen, they got to go. I'm sorry. Like, I'll be the jerk. You're not going to remember me. Who cares? Like, exactly. I'll be the guy you talked about that sucked. But yeah. But I always try to be kind. You never know what someone's going through. Same thing with like you go out and how someone treats a waiter or how someone treats parking attendant, anything like that. That's really tells the true character, I think, of someone. Because we're all just human beings floating on this silly rock, And I think that I always tell people that like traveling is the best thing that's ever happened in my life, is being able to see other cultures and how people live. And you realize that no matter what, doesn't matter color, skin, religion, anything like that. Pretty much we all just want to spend time with people that we care about and enjoy really good food. And have some good memories, and when we get down to the core of it, we're all pretty much the same. When you think about that, like I know, I mean, there's always going to be bickering and fighting in this world, but I try to not be involved in any of that.
Yeah, other than unless it's in a cage or a ring, right? Then that's fine.
And even then, I don't want. I'll take pictures of it.
Take pictures of it. That's
getting hit in the face is not fun.
Let's talk a little bit about the kind of the sports aspect of how you got into this. So how did you start taking pictures of MMA, and then how did that transition into pro wrestling, which seems to be what you're more doing now?
Yeah, so I was working for a company called Triumph United years and years and years ago. And we just happened to have, like, we were in San Diego, so random people would come into the office all the time from all walks of life, dirt bike, skateboarding, surfing, all that stuff. And one day someone walked in and they had just gotten sponsored by this little tiny Handycam video company. The Handycams cost like $99. This was even before flip cameras. I mean, way back in the day. And he threw the box on my lap. I was like, yo, we just got a bunch of these. Take one. And it was little flip open cam. You know, you couldn't focus or anything. It just did it all itself. And garbage. Probably 540 maybe. I don't know. I'm not really good with tech stuff. That's why I tweet you if I get in trouble. And so I was like, I'm going to film our daily activities at the office and our trips. We'd go and see Kimbo and Rampage and things like that. And one of my videos of Kimbo, he called out Chuck Liddell, and that went. So this was at a time where, like, viral. There was no viral. You know, like, it's not like the video got over 1 million hits.
Wow.
Which at the time was a huge deal.
Yeah, super big.
Nowadays, that's like 10 minutes. But back then, I promise you.
Yeah.
And the videos, like screen caps, actually ended up in ESPN, the magazine. ESPN used to have a magazine, which was a huge deal. Like, I can't explain. If you didn't grow up with it, like, it's hard to explain. Like, that was actually a big deal.
Like Sports Illustrated.
Yeah. And so then I realized, like, I have this access. I have to take it more and more serious. And then I'd upgrade my cameras. Eventually got like a flip camera, a little flip HD, which I thought was like, I'm killing it. I got an HD, you know? And I filmed myself, and I started my own little YouTube channel, which like actually got decent traction for what it was at the time and in the little MMA bubble that we were in.
Yeah.
And so I would film there, and I decided, like, I'm going to just become a documentary filmmaker. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to travel the world, make no money, sleep on people's couches, and just make enough to get me to the next city to do my next project, right?
Yeah.
And I was working for another brand at the time called Jocko.
I have so much Jocko. I still have Jocko shirts, man.
And I was out there filming Rashad Evans in the Black Zillion camp. And while I was filming, I had a Canon T2i, which was one of the most, like, that purchase decision, like, I sat on it for weeks. So I was terrified. And it was like $600, $500. But I mean, back then to me, that was like,
that's everything.
This is your life. Like, if this doesn't work, you're screwed. So I picked that camera up, and obviously I could do video 1080p, which was unreal. And then I could also take photos if I wanted to. So I was like, yeah, I'll mess around. I'd always like messed around with like a little film camera. So I took some photos. Then afterwards, they were like, did you get any photos while you're there? I know you were doing video. Did you happen to take any photos? And I was like, yeah. They're like, oh, because like a website needs some, and of our athletes. And I was like, here you go. Take them. I am not a photographer. I don't want to be a photographer. Have them for free.
Wow.
I do not care. So then a couple weeks later, I went up to Boston to film with Kenny Florian. Same thing happened afterwards. They're like, did you get any photos of Kenny?
Interesting.
Like, magazine wants them. And I was like, absolutely. Grappling magazine. Again, at the time, all my stories are at the time. I'm so old. So at the time, huge magazine, and sent him the photos of Kenny. Again, take them. I'm not a photographer. I'm never going to be a photographer. Don't pay me. I don't care. So those wound up in like the next month, this year, whatever, which was like a really cool feeling.
Yeah.
And then I just realized, like, again, I have this access. It makes sense to like become a double threat sort of guy, do photo and video. And then as it slowly continued, I was like 75-25, and then it was 50-50, then it was 25-75, and then eventually it just turned into pretty much all photo, just because editing video for other people is horrific.
Yeah, it's a beast.
Editing for yourself, it's fine. Like, I can do that all the time. But editing for other people is it's just the worst.
Yeah, for sure. What was the transition from MMA to wrestling? Because I just remember being on your Instagram, and then all of a sudden I see you, at the time, and I'll use that phrase, you're doing a lot of shots of Becky Lynch, who wasn't as big as she is obviously now. Like, she's a superstar now, but she was kind of on the cusp when you were taking pictures. I'm
Yeah,
like, wait
yeah.
a minute. She's taking like Becky, like, what is going on? I didn't know Ryan knew wrestlers. How did that happen? And kind of where have you been? How did it go to where you are now?
Yeah, I've always been a wrestling nerd since I was a very little child. It was always LA Rams football and pro wrestling were my two loves.
Mm.
And so Becky happened to be at a UFC event, and I took some photos of her in the crowd, tagged her in it. And then again, at the time, she was extremely popular, but her Instagram, everything was not at the level, and her fame was not the level that it was then. So it was easier for her to see the tag and see whatever.
Right.
So she messaged me. She's like, "Thank you so much for the photos." And then we got to chatting, and I think we might have had like some mutual friends or something like that, because I had shot some WWE tryouts back in the day because they were in Orlando.
Yeah, I remember.
And so she was like, "Can I have you come out to?" I was living in Vegas. "Can I have you come out to LA?" Oh no, sorry. They had a SmackDown in Vegas. We met up the first time, did a quick photo session. My wife actually did her makeup. And
Oh,
then
wow.
and then from there she was like, "Hey, can you come out to LA and we'll do like a full day of photos?" And I was like, "Absolutely," just for her to have and use forever PR or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I came out to LA, flew out in the morning, shot a ton of photos all throughout the city, and then hopped on a plane that night, came back home. And yeah, people really dug them. And then she just created this
I was about to
monumental
say,
rise.
but then not just that, like, I guess that helps hook you into other people who probably saw them like, wait a minute, who took your photos really great? Is that how you got to people like Rhea and all these other really amazing people? Or
I
no?
mean, in reality, everything is pretty much just trust. And so someone sees something. Like I remember one time, Ray Lewis, football player, was at our gym, and I was taking photos. And like I read people. I have no talent whatsoever, but I can read people. That's it. It's the only thing I know how to do.
I love it.
And so I could tell, like, he was giving me a look of like, "Yo, who's this dude? Why is he taking photos of me?" And then the guy next to him was like, "Oh, that's Rashad's photographer." And he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, do whatever you want then." And it's like, it's always just about trust, because they go, "Oh, if so-and-so trusts me or trusts him to take photos, then I can trust them," like, because they vouch for me. And that's how it is. Word of mouth and trust. So someone goes, "Oh, if Becky trusted him enough to go take photos of him or go take photos of her and that, then he must not be a weirdo. So let me see what I can do,
Yeah, so maybe I can use
so it just snowballs from there.
Yeah, and it seems like you've taken pictures of a lot of top talent, and become friends with people who I think that even I watch on TV. I'm like, I would really love to talk to them. They seem like an interesting person. Who that you have taken photos of and become friendly with surprised you in like a positive way of like how genuine and awesome that they are in person? Like you had this kind of this thought beforehand, like, oh, they'll probably be fine or whatever. But then you met them, like, oh my God, that's a human that I really love.
Oh, wow. So Renee Paquette, I knew she was going to be lovely or anything like that.
Yeah.
But after hanging with her and taking photos of her and just being around her, you're just like, that is just a lovely person. Like, she is truly just a lovely person. And I feel that same way about Mariah May, who's one of the latest like AEW just on the rise superstars, our current women's champion. Again, I thought, like, yeah, she's very nice, whatever. And then we started to hang out and took some photos and things. And now I'm just like,
yeah, that's my person.
That's my girl. That's my girl.
I love that.
If she needs anything, I got you.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I've seen you and Renee talk a lot. So for people who don't know, Renee used to be, I think, an announcer or something on WWE, and she now does stuff for AEW. And I believe she's married to Jon Moxley, right?
Yeah, and she was on the Score too in Canada.
The Score, it's big Canadian.
Got an acclaimed career.
She's super big. And so you guys got connected.
She's got a cookbook.
Oh, listen, I love people to cook for me. Let me be real clear about that. So was that also another connection that was like word of mouth and, oh, this guy does photos, or was that another, how did you connect with Renee?
Renee was through, man, my memory's so bad. Renee, I want to say that Renee was through John, or like sort of all around at the same time.
Yeah.
Like the John Moxley connection was because I was at an event that he was at an indie show.
Mm.
And he has a very like strong presence where you're like,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
can
if
tell.
if I should go up to him. I don't know if I should talk to him. He just looks intense all
Yeah,
the
he does.
time. You know what
He
I mean?
does.
The man could be doing a crossword puzzle and he's just terrifies you.
Right, yeah.
So I finally like showed him a photo that I had taken of him at an event before, and he was like, "You took that?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, cool, man. Yeah, it looks great. Like, yeah, whatever you want to do today, then we're cool." So that got me in. But then after the event, you know, he was all sweaty and whatever, and he's like, "Man, I really want to recreate this photo that I saw of this kickboxer."
I think I've seen this photo
And
you're
I was
talking
like,
about.
"Who are you talking about?" And he's like, "It was a photo of Joe Schilling, and he had like a cigarette after a fight." And I was like, "I took that." And that's when like it was like, cool.
Yeah,
we're
he was
good
like,
now.
"Oh, you're that
He was
guy. We
like,
love that."
he was like, "Of course you did. I should have known." And then that was it. Like we like again, more of the trust thing goes into it again. You know, like, oh, you're the guy that took that photo. Schilling trusted you to take it.
Yeah.
You're cool. And I think that's how me and Renee linked up, or became like, yeah, come to my house and take my baby photos. You know, and
Take
maternity
my
photos.
baby photos. So, okay. So now that you're doing a lot of AEW stuff, it seems like, are you kind of contracted through them, or how does that work?
I mean, I pretty much shoot all the Dynamites, which is every
Okay.
Wednesday, and then the pay-per-views. But we're sort of interchangeable. We have two teams, like a Wednesday
Okay.
team and a Saturday team.
Sure.
And then if someone falls out, if someone's got conflicting dates, like people jump in, and it's really nice because I'm able to say, you know what, I actually have another gig that week or that weekend. I'll swap out some days, but like the freedom there is really, really nice. Like to be able to, you know, pick and choose sort of. But I just, you know, I like hanging out with those people and I like to travel. So
yeah, it just kind of works out.
Yeah.
So obviously you have a business, right? So you're an entrepreneur is what most people would call it.
I hate that word.
I hate being called a content creator, but what can you do? It is
I
what
also
it is.
hate that word too.
I don't like it either.
I take photos. I do not create content.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm like, what is this? This is a podcast. I don't even consider it content, but
Content
okay.
is garbage. Content is
I
something you
hate-
consume and you don't think about ever again. You throw it away. I
so
make that.
agree.
And I'm not saying that because I think like I'm a talented photographer or anything. I'm just saying like I just don't do that. I don't
Right.
make content. Sorry.
No, I feel you. I feel you on that. I think some of the terminology just kind of, I don't know, kind of cringy or whatever. But
But it also like it throws away everything that you've done. Like everything
Right.
that you put into it and all the hard work and the different things that go into it now just gets labeled under this giant umbrella of content.
yeah, what does that
is
mean? even?
content?
Exactly.
This is content, what we're doing.
Right.
You know, like everything is content. And if everything is content, then it means everything is just nothing.
Yeah. When you start generalizing everything and calling it one thing, it's not like it's nothing special. It's like everyone's in first place.
Yeah.
So then what's first place? It's nothing. All right. So let's go. Let's talk about a couple of funny things. One of the things that I've seen you, at least in the last year or two, talk about on Twitter is Delta Airlines, and we kind of connect on this because we both. I don't like to fly, but if I fly on Delta. That's kind of the way it goes, right? Unless there's absolutely no way that they go somewhere, I'm on Delta. But you've had some interesting kind of issues with Delta, which is when you usually tweet about it, because we both love Delta, but also like every once in a while something happens and it's like, bro, what? You're like the premier airline. How can you let this stuff happen? Like I remember that one thing that happened on the news like 2 weeks before I went to Vegas, where those people were on the airline or on the tarmac for like 2 hours and they were like throwing up because it was really hot in there. Do you remember hearing about that?
I mean, that was me yesterday.
Oh my
Hopefully it
God.
wasn't hot, but yeah, we're sat on the tarmac for 2 hours.
That's
Yeah.
insane. I
Yeah,
was
they
on the
wouldn't let
tarmac
people
about an hour and a half just to get a couple last time I was in a plane. I'm like, what is going on? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
It's different to take off, but I don't understand. Like, how is it you were by the gate to leave and you had to stay on the tarmac? Did they ever explain that?
For me, it was because of lightning. And so because if there's lightning within X distance from the airport, none of the ground crew can go outside. And so no
okay.
one can operate the ramp to come up to the...
Oh.
And like last month, the lightning hit as we were deplaning. So because the ramp was there, we were allowed to come off, but then the baggage wouldn't come off for hours because none of the baggage crew could come outside because of the lightning.
Bro.
I'm saying, like, let's toughen up here.
I mean, you're in Florida, so
The
I think
lightning
you
is
kinda
it's a mile away.
Look,
we're
for
fine.
me, I don't like lightning because I feel like it's funny to me that a lot of people, there's people out there that are like, I love thunderstorms. I love lightning storms. I'm like, bro, if someone came to your neighborhood with a laser gun and just randomly shot into the air, I bet your ass would be scared of it. But the fact that it's so natural, you're not scared. You're like, oh, it's beautiful. No, it's not. You get hit in the brain with that thing. See, you people are crazy. There's something wrong with y'all.
There's nothing better to me than being on my couch and there is a giant thunderstorm. And we have those like every day now. I think so.
Yeah, I can't do that. Plus, my power goes out. But then your power goes out, then what?
Oh, so, well, one, power only goes out for 10 seconds. Two, this is the only, like, tech-savvy thing I've ever done, because I don't know anything about... For someone who buys the newest and greatest cameras, I don't know anything about tech. But I did buy one of those, like, the hubs with the plugs, whatever, that has, like, a stores energy.
Oh, UPS?
I don't... Yeah. Like, I know. But anyway... So what happens is, like, the power goes out, but our router and everything stays on because it still has enough juice. And then I don't have to reset my Wi-Fi, which means I don't have to reset my air conditioners. Means I don't have to reset all the other stuff. It's the only smart tech thing I've ever done. And I also installed Ring cameras. That's the other.
Oh yeah, I got Ring cameras. I love those, man. I love
tech thing I've done. I got a Ring garage opener that I still haven't installed though. So
funny you say that. So of all the things, like I have. My house has like all smart lights and everything, and I love the Ring cameras. But the one thing I kind of decided was, and I'll tell you why this happened. I decided that I'm not going to do door locks or my garage opener as automated. And here's why. Do you remember Slingbox? Do you remember what a Slingbox is?
Was that where you could watch your television from? Yeah. So
back in the day, for people who are probably too young to even know what this is.
Way too back in the day, yeah.
When you used to have DVRs and cable TV and satellite, and you couldn't really watch those. There wasn't like Netflix was somewhat streaming, but not really. And you wanted to watch something that was on your DVR. This is mostly for what it was for. You could download the app and get this piece of hardware, and you plug it into your DVR and your satellite receiver, or your cable receiver, and then later, somewhere, remotely, you could watch things that you had recorded or watch live TV, which was not something you could really do back then. I mean, I know now it's like you can do that all the time. You couldn't do that back then. Just trust me on this. I remember sitting at home one day and I was watching TV, and all of a sudden my menu came up and then it changed channels. And I looked over and I could see someone had hacked and logged into my Slingbox, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. So I unplugged it, never turned it back on. I'm like, okay, so I'm not doing door locks. And I'm not doing, because why do I want to be like 100 miles away from my house and my garage door opens because some guy in the Ukraine decides, or not Ukraine, but whoever, Russia or whatever, decides to open my garage door? Like, nah, bro, I'm good. So door locks and garage door openers, I'm not doing automated stuff for that.
Well, maybe now I don't feel bad for having that thing sit there for a year that I haven't installed.
Let it sit there, bro.
Yeah.
Let it sit there. The other thing, okay, let's talk. I want to get through this because I want to be able to have the second half of the show be more positive and fun and everything. But I do want to talk about this.
Let's go negative.
It's not negative. It's
I love
sad.
Negative. I love sad music. Sad music is my favorite thing in the world.
We're gonna play the sad music. By the way, there are some great sad music songs. What's your favorite sad music song?
So there's a group called the Antlers, and this guy wrote an album about his wife going through hospice care, and it will ruin your life. And I love it. I love it. Also 6 Days at the Bottom of the Ocean by Explosions in the Sky, about the submarine. Like, there's no lyrics. It's all instrumental.
Interesting.
But you can actually like feel the story as it progresses just through the music, which is incredible.
Wow.
Sigur Rós did an album. Sorry, I get so excited. Sigur Rós did an album where if I'm wrong, I apologize, but this is what I remember. They did an album and created their own language. And just for the album, or maybe it's a take on an old Icelandic, because they're from Iceland, an Icelandic language. I'm not 100% sure. But they did a song, and I'll send it to you, and it's all in that language, which you won't understand. But it is just like,
it gets you, huh?
I love to have my heart ripped out, man. It's the best feeling in the world.
It's interesting. I mean, I have a couple, but the one that always comes to mind is all around me are familiar faces. Worn up. Oh, love that song. There's a lot of songs like that. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about what is something that brings a definite feeling of happiness when you're in it, but afterwards it's painful, and that is dogs. Love them. Love them. So as you know, I think I've told you, right? You know this. So I had a dog for, 13, 14 years. His name was Nathan. He was in some of my videos and stuff, and I spent more time with him, especially during the second half of his life, than I did with any human, because at the time I was working at Amazon, and you could take your dog to work. So literally, I would leave the house. He'd be in the car with me, be at work with me. I mean, who's with you at work more than your coworkers? Are usually not your spouse or anything like that. And then the ride back, like, so just that alone made me spend more time with him than any human. I think for the last 5 or 6 years of his life, I was cognizant to really try to. I get emotional talking about this.
Yeah,
To
of course.
try to take every moment and like really let it seep in. Because I'm like, oh gosh, it's been like, I think he was like 8 or 9 at the time. I'm like, oh, he's not gonna last forever. So last year in March, I think it was about March, is when he passed away, and it was devastating. And I mean, I still haven't gotten over it. I think I can't remember if I said it on this podcast or not, but I'll never get over it. Like,
No.
there's a part of me that's gone forever. And I feel like I learned a lot of things. The thing that was hardest for me, I think, was the the dreams I had for weeks where he was in all those dreams. And the very first dream that he was in, I screamed in the dream because when he was running towards me, I knew he wasn't there. So it was weird because in the dream I was both happy and horrified at the same time because I knew it wasn't real. So I had those dreams for a long time. And even to this day, every once in a while I'll have one. And it sucks. It really sucks. I love that I had the time with him, but now that he's gone, it's like, it's hard. So anyway, you had a similar thing happen where you had a dog for a long time. And then he passed. It was last year or something?
She passed in February. So
February of
1
this
month
year.
before Nathan.
Oh yeah, last year. Okay, so yeah, just 1 month before. Yeah, so you had just gone through that. And anyone who's a dog owner knows the unique love that a dog can give. It's unique. It is when someone talks about love that is unconditional. I'm unsure humans can really give unconditional love. Dog can. They're never mad at you. Never for a day. So anyway, I saw you go through that, and my heart went out to you. Then Nathan passed. And then recently you posted, I think it's time, and that's, one of the things you get on a plane for today, to get, when people ask me, like, are you ever going to get another dog? It's just, that part of my life is over. But I love that you guys, you and your wife, have opened your hearts back up to another dog. I would love to hear that story.
Yeah, so we adopted a dog after we moved in together in Vegas. My wife saw her and fell in love with her. And her name was Noodle. She was a Chow Chow mix. We drove to Durango, Colorado. She was at a rescue in Houston, so we met halfway. We picked her up in a Home Depot parking lot. It was like a drug deal. And I remember bringing her back to the hotel in Colorado because we were going to drive back to Vegas the next morning. And realizing, one, that was the last time that Holly loved me the most, which was fine. And also, like, the Noodle didn't eat or drink anything for a few hours. And so we were both like, is something wrong? Like, we got a broken dog, she's terrified. And I still remember that we were laying in the bed and we're just like laying there, letting her do her thing. And then all of a sudden, she hadn't moved from her little dog bed that we got her. And I just remember hearing the little click clack. And she went to the bathroom where we had put a bowl, and we started to hear her drink. Oh. And that's always been my favorite sound, is her drinking. I remember that memory of how we both looked at each other and were like, she's okay. Like, as silly as it sounds, we were like, okay, our dog's okay. And we had ordered a pizza because it was the only thing open, and Noodle didn't eat anything, and Noodle was never cared about food. She's a weird little dog. But she ate a tiny little piece of crust. And that always sticks with me because, one, I love pizza, but I don't ever eat the crust. Like I usually just
Same.
eat that part and get rid of it. And so
Yeah.
now whenever I get pizza now, I make it a point to have a bite of crust. And I do it for Noodle because she would have eaten it and I don't really eat the crust. So she, was with us for shoot, how many years? 8 years? Something like that. I'm really bad with numbers. I apologize.
Me too.
She was in the middle of our wedding photos. I have photos of her
Aw.
little paws holding the rings. She was there for all the important moments, all the important times, all the big decisions. She was always there. And then moved from Vegas to Florida and, got to see her really like flourish with like just a different environment. And, she didn't like the beach. I remember one time we drove to San
Huh.
Diego and we were all excited because we were going to take her to the beach for the first time. And she stepped on the sand and looked at us like we were the biggest idiots. Just like, what is this? Didn't want to walk, didn't want to move, nothing. And then near the end of her life, her legs started to go, her little back legs. A few months before, I was sitting on the couch watching something on YouTube, probably photo related, 'cause that's all I watch. And she slipped and fell, and I thought like she just slipped. And then all of a sudden she screamed. And it's the worst noise I've ever heard. I still remember the noise. And she was having a seizure. And I thought, because she was screaming, like just this crazy scream, horrific. And then she stopped screaming and didn't move. And I thought that she had passed away.
Yeah.
And in that split second, I had gone from obviously horrified that something happened to my poor dog to then realizing my wife's not home and she wasn't here. And I can't like fathom like her last moments and my wife isn't here because my wife and her were just bonded. Luckily, she, after a minute or two, like kicked out of it. Our good friend's a vet, so I immediately called him and he like calmed me down, everything like that. But that was like the beginning of us going, our time with her is limited. And going back to like what you said about like trying to be in the moment, like I am not even though I'm a photographer and I love to take photos, I take photos all the time. I don't really take photos on my phone. One, I don't like it. I just don't think it feels right. Two, like I made it a point, I want to say 2015, because I was planning a trip to Europe and to Iceland. I was like, I want to remember things. And I don't want to remember them from a photo. I want to remember being in the moment and actually taking the time to like be a part of this. And I remember like sitting in Iceland and like just sitting and just trying to soak in all these memories and trying to remember what it smelled like. And I did that with Noodle near the end. Like I just wanted to try to remember like cuddling on the couch, waking me up at 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom. Like I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
and then the sad thing about that though is as much as we try to remember all the moments, we don't, it just isn't that the same. I don't care what people say. It's not the same. And so I try to get that feeling back. It's not the full feeling, And so when she passed, our friend came and she passed in our house and she passed in my wife's arms. And we told her we loved her and we thanked her. And I promised to her that I would take care of her people, meaning that I would adopt another chow and give them the life that we gave her because it's only fair. And that's what Noodle would have wanted, to see all her people rise up and be taken care of. So it's been about 1.5 years. It was probably the worst. Her passing is the worst day of my life. I've accepted it. I know it. And I know with this new dog, her passing will probably be like the second or tied for the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
But I know that it's something I have to do. And all the good times outweigh the pain because it's worth it. I have to do it. I have to provide and give love to this little creature. And it's my responsibility. It's my duty on earth is to take care of people and take care of my wife and take care of animals. And the pain is just part of the process. you know? And if you went back and told me, we can give you Noodle again, but Noodle's going to die again, would you do it? I'd do it a million times over. I would do it every day because she's worth it. And there's like a thing where they did like an interview with Billy Bob Thornton. I don't know if you've seen the clip where he talks about his brother who had passed away. And he talks about the pain and missing his brother and crying. And he talks about how he doesn't want the pain to go away. His brother deserves it, you know, and that's his thing to carry. And that's what he will do. And I will do that with Noodle, and I will do that with our new, currently unnamed dog because we can't figure out a name. I want to name her Gravy, and Holly is not happy about it. But that pain is worth everything. Like I would do it a million times over. And I think about how good of a life Noodle had and how she had a better life than most humans will ever experience, you know? And I can't look back on that and be sad. I can be sad that she's gone, but I can't be sad at what we did while she was here, you know?
I love that. What made now the right time?
I think it has to do with me being gone a lot. And even Holly will be gone a lot for her job too. And there's just something about coming home to an empty house and not hearing the little click clack on the floor. And I like being responsible for something. Like I miss taking care of Noodle. I miss putting her pill in her food. I miss, you know, she started to go through the doggy dementia near the end. And she would get confused. And there was times where I woke up 3-4 times in the middle of the night. And I would do that every night for the rest of my life if I could. She's worth it. And so I just miss the responsibility. I like being like, I got to go home, guys. I got to go take care of my dog.
Wow.
Or I can't go on this trip. Someone needs to watch the dog. And
That's
I
crazy.
like having something, like there is my wife, but she would say the same thing. I like having something that's more important than me, you know? And I try to, my wife is in that level, of course. My wife is more, but you know, she's an adult and can't handle
Right.
herself.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of having something that is more important than me and needs me. And
Wow.
I'm willing to do that. Like, I feel like, what's the reason for being on this stupid little rock if you can't make someone else's existence better?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that kind of transitions to the next little thing I want to talk about is what do you think happens after we die? Do you think there's anything that happens at all?
I don't think so.
You think it's just that's it?
No, I think that, you know, they talked about maybe we're in a simulation, and
I mentioned that in the last podcast, but there's reasons behind it. But go ahead.
I'm not completely against that idea that we're in a simulation, or that someone's just kind of like, hey, let's see what would happen if this happened.
Right,
this
right,
happened
right.
all once, and you know, just the chaos. And I think that it's one of those things where I look back at like, is it sucks when I die? Probably gonna suck, you know. I would have probably liked another day, no matter what it is. But again, I think of the time with my wife. I think of the time with my dog, future dogs. I think of the time with my mom. I think of the time with my brothers. And like, you could either not be born, so you don't have to die, or I can give you all these memories, but it's going to end one day. And I would take the memories a million times over. I have no worry. And I think because I thought I was like going to die, I thought I was going to overdose and die, you know, years ago, that I feel like I'm playing with house money. Like Earth had the chance to kill me and it didn't. So now I'm like, technically I should have already been dead. So since I'm not, screw y'all, and I'm going to live this out.
I love it.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. So what happened that you almost died, and like what was going on?
I just really, really love drugs. Drugs. I'm not going to lie.
One way of saying.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit there and like pretend that they weren't awesome. They were awesome.
Right.
And so I got mixed up, you know, never liked weed, just not fun.
Interesting.
Wasn't my thing. Not my thing. Cocaine was a lot of fun.
Wow.
But I never like felt that I didn't have cocaine. I was fine. Who cares? But I got hooked on opiates, of course. Unfortunately, the best thing you can get hooked on. So I was doing that. It was again at the time you could get OxyContin and you could take the time release coating off, so it would give you the high quicker. And it started out like you'd take a quarter of one with a beer, and you just felt like $1,000,000. But unfortunately, you start to get like a physical addiction, like your body needs it just to function. You have to take more and more and more. And so do that, and then if that's not available, you have to go to other options like buying heroin and things like that. And yeah, so I was doing all that, and one day I was just like, this is the stupidest thing ever, but I will always credit them. And so I'm listening to a song. There's a song called Just, and it's by Radiohead. And there's a lyric in the song that says, "You do it to yourself, and that's what really hurts." I don't know what the song's really about. It could be about anything, but to me, I took that personally. And I was sitting there going, all this pain is self-inflicted. This like being like just a slave to this substance and needing it all the time. And when I wouldn't have it, I was irritable and I was a wreck. And so after listening to that song, stupid as it sounds, I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not gonna do this anymore. Oh, so really quick, going back though, what had happened was I'd been using cocaine and heroin at the same time.
Jesus.
And was in a bathroom, and then don't remember anything. Woke up, there was a needle in my arm, and I was like, what happened? It was all blur. I don't know how long I was laying on the bathroom floor. Who knows? And that was also where I was like thinking like, wow, my mom could have found, like the news could have been like, we found your son. And he had a needle on his arm, by the way. Did you know that? And
oh my God. Jeez.
So that was what went into then hearing the Radiohead song and me going, I got to stop. And so I quit cold turkey, which was awful. Yeah, that was terrible. Don't ever do that. So here's my two suggestions for you. One, don't do heroin. But two, if you do, don't quit cold turkey, because that was 4 to 5 days of just pure torture.
Wow.
Restless leg syndrome. You can't sleep because your legs, just want to move. You got the shakes. You're freezing while you're sweating. And like I was just pacing the hall because I was exhausted and I was crying because I just wanted to go to bed, but my legs wouldn't let me go to bed. And I was miserable.
Jeez. I actually have restless leg syndrome, but that's just not because I'm doing any drugs. It's just because I'm old.
That's the bonus.
Yeah, listen, I can barely see now. It's a whole bunch of crap that happens when you get older.
Yeah, so after that, that's when I kind of just like my whole mindset shifted. I was like, I feel like I got bonus time, And so I'm just going to enjoy every moment. And like life's too short to be like a negative person or to be angry at people. And like if someone wants to, yell at me, like say we're out in public and someone cuts in front of me and they want to cuss me out, I'm like, cool, man. You can go home and tell everyone like, oh man, I yelled at this dude and he was a pussy. He didn't want to fight me. Like, whatever, man, you win.
Yeah.
I'm good.
No, I love that. I love it's almost like being like water. Like it's okay. It's whatever. It's almost like the Jamaican kind of lifestyle of it's all good. Yeah. So before we cut out of here, because there's still just one or two things I want to talk to you about. So back to like wrestling stuff, because I'm still fascinated. It's the one thing that I never really got to cover. I did interview a couple of wrestlers on my old podcast, but I've always been fascinated by it because it was something I watched as a young kid. Are you ever back in like the locker room area while they're getting ready and stuff? Have you ever seen like that?
I'm everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask, like, what's the kind of environment like in the back? Because we hear a lot of things, and I think most people are compelled by the things they can't see that are outside of the ring. Like the one thing I've always wondered is how personal, if you've ever seen their experiences, how personal do you think the wrestlers take it when they're told they have to lose? Like, because to me, a lot of them put a lot of, not all of them, but a lot of them put a lot of things, a lot of themselves into whether or not they win a title or they win or something. And it's not up to them. It really isn't. And it's not even really up to the fans. To a certain degree, it can be kind of up to the fans if the organization's paying attention, but it's up to a booker, really. It's like whether this person gets the championship or not. And I wonder, like, when you're given the championship, which is typically the company saying, we believe in you and you can carry this thing, and then being told, okay, we're going to take it off and put it on someone else. A lot of wrestlers that have been around for a long time understand that. I go, yeah, it's just part of the business. But I feel like some get caught in their feelings just by posts you see from them later. Have you seen any of that? Have you seen that interaction, and or have you talked to anyone to ask like, what does it feel like to be told that, yeah, this you're going on a losing streak or something like that? That can be kind of daunting.
I think so. Without getting too inside,
Yeah,
but I would liken it to think of like a play, right?
Okay.
And you're an actor, and
Yep.
you perfected your craft, and all you want to do is act.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it comes down to if they went to you and said, we got you in this, or we're writing this play, and blah, 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 and here's the thing, you're going to do all this, and then we're going to have you die
Yeah.
to the good guy or whoever, right?
Yep.
The protagonist is going to kill you,
Mhm.
and you're going to die because you slipped on a banana peel.
Sure.
Versus, and so the actor is more just like, kill me off.
Right.
1,000% kill me off. But just do it in a cool way,
Ah.
you know? And I
Mm.
feel like everyone is, I would assume they're down for anything
Right.
as long as it's in a cool way. Like
The
I
way
feel
it
like
makes sense for some. Yeah.
if I was an actor on a TV show and they were like, every week you're going to be the butt of this joke,
Yeah.
I would be like, as long as it's really, really funny,
I agree.
I'm down.
I agree.
And anyone that acts like, well, I don't want to, I wouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Mm.
unless it's because, like, again, it's not, like, if you really just don't want to be killed
Yeah.
or whatever, like, just
Right.
because, it's so silly, man.
That is silly.
You know? But I think at the end of the day, everyone just wants to do an incredible job. No matter
I
what
love
it
that.
is. We want to put on an incredible show for the fans. And that's it.
I love
Like,
that.
I love seeing little kids happy. It is my favorite thing in the
Mhm.
world. Next to taking care of a dog, it is seeing little kids happy, because once you are not a kid anymore, that doesn't come back.
Yeah.
You know? You don't ever get that excitement. Santa's not real anymore.
Bro,
Like,
that destroyed my
Whole-
Christmases.
hold on to being a child for as long as possible.
I agree.
And so if you can give them, like, seeing them just light up when their favorite wrestler comes out of the tunnel and they just
Yeah.
scream and they got their shirt on or whatever. And like, you know, depending on if we, like, one of our guys is like, he has all this money that flies up when he makes an entrance. And so like,
Yeah.
I try to give it out to the kids and like seeing their face light up. And like, I remember I did it for like a couple kids that were sitting all the way at the top, and like they were so
Oh,
excited, you know,
I
because
love
like,
that.
you know, they were far away, but you could tell like they were there because they wanted to see the show and they were hoping, you know,
Yeah.
and like those are the things like that really get to me.
What was the coolest interaction you saw between like a wrestler or an MMA fighter and the fan that you were there to see?
Well, I mean, I feel like we see it, and we always have it almost every week, just because like people will come out and like say hi to the fans after the show and things like
That's
that.
so cool.
And so it's really cool to see like the little kids will dress up like some of the characters, some of the wrestlers, and to see them meet that person is just a really cool. Like we have this Darby who does like half
Yeah.
skull face paint, and there's so many half skull kids just
Oh,
in the
that's awesome.
audience, and getting to see them. But one of the coolest things, sort of related, is like I see like people dressed up or wearing like their favorite wrestler's outfit, and I'll know like, oh, they're gonna come later on in the show, or like they might be last, you know, because
Yeah.
people don't know if so and so is gonna appear or anything.
Sure.
And so I get excited knowing, oh man, in 2 hours,
You're going to know. Yeah.
oh, they're gonna be having the best moment, because like they're gonna be like, is it? Oh, it's not him. Is it? Oh, it's not him. And I'm just like, I love it. I just love it. I love
That's
seeing people
amazing.
happy. It's just like our world sucks so much that anything that brings you joy, listen, we're all big dorks. Like, that's why I try not to there's so many things I'm ignorant to, I don't pay attention to, and like take like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like I don't know anything about it, and there's people that do meetups or whatever like that,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that brings them happiness, who cares?
Yeah, go for it.
Who decides what's cool?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I listen to this kind of music, I'm cool. Like, who cares? You're not that
Yeah.
cool. None
I
of us
feel
are
like-
that cool. We're dorks at different levels. Or
100%.
Or dorks of more not accessibility, but like it's more accepted. You know,
Mhm.
like, oh, you can be a dork for this band because that band's cool. You know, Who
Right.
cares?
I love that. This is why I consider us. It's weird. I call you my friend, but not friend. The not friend part isn't like you're not my friend. It's that like we're not the typical like friends. I consider you my friend, even though like this is the longest conversation we've ever had, which is great. It's been recorded, so it's like that memory you were talking about. This is the most in depth we've ever had a conversation about anything. So people are getting to see that kind of live. But I still consider you a friend, and I always have, because of your outlook on life. And what you just kind of said there encompassed why I like you so much, and why I think that of all the people in my journey of doing all these different things, whether it be tech or MMA or whatever it's been, there's very few people that I kind of keep along for the ride. And I always feel like you are one of those people that I'm like, this is a genuinely cool person. I don't, just because I'm not doing MMA or anything like that anymore, doesn't mean I don't want to, be in contact, which is why, as the second episode, I was like, I would love to talk to Ryan and kind of not only just to get to know him better, but also to kind of spread what I kind of know about you, the little bit that I knew about you, to more people, because I just think it's dope. And I just want to thank you for that. Like, just being able to be very open, and because you didn't have to do this. You were so like on board. We hadn't talked in a while, and I'm like, I love you being on my podcast. She's like, anything, man, let's do it. And I'm like, dope. So I love that.
Yeah, I just feel like, I look at it like, if anybody is listening, one person that had any issues, whether it's drug problems or losing a pet or losing a loved one, and it gave them any sort of solace or inspiration to want to change. And like, I am the poster boy of being a complete fuck up, a loser that should not. I dropped out of college. I had no direction. I was one day away from being homeless one time. I was 2 weeks away from being homeless another time. And now I live an incredibly charmed life that I don't deserve, but I promise that I appreciate every single waking moment of, and I don't take for granted. And I think that also goes to why we are ready to adopt a new dog, because we want to give this life and this love to something else, And like, what's the point of hoarding love?
Yeah.
We should share it. We don't run out of it, so just keep giving it.
I love that, man. Well, Ryan, I appreciate you greatly. For those that are watching or listening, I'll have a link to Ryan's website so you can see all the amazing pictures he's taken over the course of the many years. I'm so blessed to have you as a friend, not friend.
And also hire me. Please, someone hire me.
Listen, do that thing. This guy needs to pay for dog food now. Can you please
I need to
hire
be
this
on,
guy?
Yeah, I need to be on 4 flights a week now instead of
We
just
can
2.
do that. I'm sure there's someone listening that's interested. So if you're interested, there'll be a link in the description on the video, and of course in the show notes for the audio podcast. For Ryan and Travis, this is the MCP cast. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.